All right, here we are, Losers and Learners podcast, back in the saddle. I am your host, Jacob Sheen Davis, and I'm sitting across the table from a man that I've been trying to pinpoint for quite some time now, ISP Israel Sharif Phakur. Welcome, sir.
Hey, welcome. Thank you for having me.
I nearly said my friend because I promised myself I wasn't going to steal the moniker right out of the gate because it's just a natural response. Get that music to stop playing for a second. Man, this has been a long time coming. I'm excited for this one.
It's been about 2 years we've been trying to put this together.
Yeah, it's been super exciting. I mean, we can start wherever you want to. I wanted to start, obviously, hit a lot of the pro wrestling career. Recently, you've broke out as an author, and I want to jump into that a little later on. But man, we can kick it right off and just throw out the fact that you're back in the saddle with the Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance as the GM. I mean, we can start from there and work our way backwards.
All right. Well, yeah. You guys hit me up. It wasn't 2 months ago, maybe.
Yeah.
Asked me if I was interested in trying to get back into the swing of things, and I was at a point in my life where it was just, man, it was chaos, man.
Yeah.
These last 2 years, let me tell you something, man. Like walking through hell to get to where I am right now is hard to understand for most people outside of my life. Like,
yeah, because you went, like, we reached out to you. I mean, we reached out to you for a while,
and I was distant.
Yeah, you kind of went dark there for a while, as and leaving wrestling kind of coincided with that period, and then it just kind of
it just went downhill from there, completely downhill from there. As soon as I left wrestling, like, it was already bad at that point because of family situations, but when the spiral started happening, I was no good to anybody. That's straight up. We'll get to that. It's just easier for me to just go from the beginning than work into that for you.
So let's jump. Like, I want to jump it all the way back to way. I mean, we all for some reason gravitate to this business of professional wrestling. Like, let's go all the way back to that and where you started from there and how you transitioned from. Most of us go from childhood fans to being in it, but what was your path to get here?
All right. Well, the very beginning, I've always remembered wrestling in my life. Like, ever since I was a little kid, I just remember it always being on TV because my great uncle that pretty much raised me always watched wrestling.
No.
So it was always on TV, and I always remembered, like, Big John Studd, Hulk Hogan, King Kong Bundy. That's the era I grew up in.
Yeah.
So I was a Big John Studd fan. I just loved his tights. He was like the same comparison to Andre the Giant. And throughout the years, I never thought that I would ever do it. I had some friends that were like, when Tough Enough first came out, they were like, "Oh, you should try out. You should try out." Because I always did wrestling moves on my friends and stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's what kids do.
Don't try this at home, but we all tried it at home.
All tried it at home. And it just, I never really gave it much thought. It's more happenstance that I got into it. Long story short, I ended up doing 5 years to 15 years in prison. And during that time, they give you, when you're about to get out, they give you an option of like 3 places you can go. You can either go, I chose either Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, or Allentown. Because I figured, there's wrestling schools there.
Yeah.
I could probably get into wrestling. I'm still young. I was in my mid-20s. I was like 24, 25. It's like, I can still do this. Probably, mentally in my mind.
So the prison gives you 3 options?
To wherever, what halfway house you want to go to.
Oh, okay. So the transition once you're out to...
Yeah.
Is that like a probationary thing after you get out to get you reacclimated?
Basically, yes. Okay. So I picked those 3 cities because I knew there was wrestling schools in those cities.
Yeah.
And I ended up in Johnstown, which is far off from wherever I wanted to be.
Yeah.
And I'm working at a telemarketing company.
So was Johnstown like an option, or was that somewhere that you like a?
It's not an option I picked, but it's definitely an option for anybody else that wanted to go there.
Yeah.
But I originally grew up in Clearfield, Pennsylvania, so it's not that far from Johnstown and all that. And they want to try to keep you close to family and all that, I guess. I ended up in Johnstown, working telemarketing company for like 6 months, sitting across from this one dude. I knew him as Ian. Never really talked to him because I don't talk much to people.
That's one thing I noticed from day one of ever meeting you is that you're relatively. That's what's so cool about this, because you're kind of a closed book for most people, and even when like we've known each other for several years now, and it's still like I know you, but I don't know you. So this is a cool.
Yeah, you're gonna learn me today. So I'm sitting across, just like me. There's only like a computer in between us.
Yeah.
And I hear him talking to his coworker next to him about wrestling. I'm just like, I pop my head up over the computer. I'm just like, you like wrestling? He's like, yeah, I'm training to be a pro wrestler. Da 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 da. I'm like, where around here are you training to be a pro wrestler? He's like, well, I got a friend. His name is Bill. He's training all of us at this church over in Hornerstown. And I really don't know sections of Johnstown at this point.
Yeah.
I'm just new to the area. And he was like, you should come down one of these weekends and, see if you can do it.
Yeah. And this is Bill Collier.
Bill Collier, yeah, big time Bill Collier. So I was like, I don't know. When it's one thing to sit there and say you could probably do it.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be able to be like, I don't know if I want to do all that.
I was in the same boat years ago. Same deal.
So I'm dating this girl. She works at the same telemarketing company at the time. And she's like, you should do it. You should do it. You really love it. I was like, I don't know, man. Like, but if I can't do it, and then all them thoughts in my mind for all them years of, oh, you can do it, and then find out you can do it. It's kind of disappointing.
Yeah.
But if you don't take a chance, then what are you really ever going to learn in life? You know what I mean?
Yeah, the what ifs can eat away at you.
They
more
do.
so than the failures.
And we'll learn about all them what ifs here in a little bit. So one Sunday, she just was like, let's go. And I was like, all right, well, whatever, we'll go. Show up at this church. I guess they used to skateboard and all that there, and all kinds of stuff. I walk in. They got this ring set up. I was like, this is a legit wrestling ring set up in the middle of a church. And I'm just looking around. I'm watching all these people I do not know other than Ian, just doing what they're doing, taking bumps, running ropes. And then there's this big dude. I guess that was Bill at the time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm just like, he was like, you got your money? You got your dues? I was like, yeah, I paid them all in pocket change.
Yeah. Well, that's that's the first question you're always asked. You get the money?
I paid them in pocket change. And I get in the ring. Now knowing what I know now about wrestling, canvas was a lot softer, but it was a legit wrestling ring that just had a lot more padding on it.
Wow.
So I'm taking bumps.
That's intimidating enough too. The first time you like see a wrestling ring in person where you can get through the ropes and actually get in it. It's whoa, wait.
Yeah, so I'm in there and he has me running ropes with everybody else and doing a front flip bump and doing a back bump and amazingly I can do all this stuff.
Yeah.
And it came to a shock to me as it did everybody else. You know what I mean?
Now, earlier in your life, were you like an athlete? Did you do stuff like
I played baseball, played a little bit of football. Nothing ever really serious. I was just more of a menace to society, basically.
but you did have an athletic background, so like to unlock it again, getting back in there, moving around, it was just about
years,
muscle memory.
Like 10 years later. You know what I mean? It's just like.
It's like they always say it's like riding a bike, but if you haven't rode a bike in 10 years, get on it, you feel pretty awkward.
When they say that wrestling cardio is a lot different, it definitely is. Yeah. Because running them ropes, if you've never run the ropes before, the next day, the next 2 days after that, back bruised, you know what I mean?
That's the biggest shocker too, even with like grapplers or jiu-jitsu people, anything, it's like that to me is super cardio. And then as soon as you start hitting the ropes, falling down, getting up, all that kind of stuff, it's like, oh wait, this is different. This is it's tough too, but it's completely different ballgame.
Totally different monster running around in this ring, man. That's why I always knew that wrestlers were athletic. I always knew, you know what I mean? Like I didn't know it was all that because that took a lot. Now we were practicing almost 3 days a week, 4 days a week maybe.
Oh wow.
We were just going in there, just running ropes or just doing all kinds of stuff, just messing around. I had a show. It was like right before Christmas time, and there's no fire code or nothing like that. But there's like 300 people in this place.
Oh wow! So what was like the time frame here? Like what was the year?
2007 maybe 2000. Yeah, like 2007, 2000. The end of 2006 into 2007.
Right.
And I'm in a battle royal, so it's like the first time I've ever done something like this.
Yeah.
And it was terrible. First outing was terrible.
It's like the textbook first time on a show. Yeah. Give me in a battle royal. I'll try not to stink the joint up.
Punches trash, just like they are now. They're still trash. But Yeah,
In full career into your retirement, you're still calling your punches trash.
yeah, I still call my punches trash. That's why I go with chops. You know,
That's better than these day one guys, week one guys that are out there throwing like multiple punches that are horrible, and they think that they're the man.
right. I never thought that my punches were good. That's
Yeah.
the one knock I've always had on my own, like self, like watching my video. Like I can't. I just got to switch it up to chops.
Yeah. Well, and what should be the least used move in all of wrestling.
And yeah, I was just having that conversation not too long ago with Shane Mouse about that. Punches
That guy.
punches need to mean something again because they're
Yeah.
way overused in wrestling these days. But,
Yeah, especially from baby faces, because everybody's got to be a badass.
yeah, I remember watching back in the '80s. You know what I mean? When somebody actually used the punch, they did it away from the ref.
Yeah.
Or when they actually did hit it like in front of the ref, it meant something, and it was like a big bump moment. And we've gotten far away from that these days. So, but yeah, my first one-on-one match was 2 weeks after that, and I decided I was going to try and do something, you know, spectacular because I was a crash test dummy in my mind. So we had this grate set up for the walkway on the entrance, like metal grate, sharp edges, the whole nine. It was brutal. It was,
setting yourself up for failure right out of the
I
gate.
wrestled barefoot from day one.
Yeah.
So even walking on it, I knew it was going to be bad.
Yeah.
And start the match off. I think we were like the second match of the night. We're going to start the match off. I'm just going to attack I was wrestling a guy named Black Lightning. And I was going to attack him from behind on his entrance. And then I was going to body slam him on this grate, which he was cool with everything that we were talking about doing.
First singles match.
So I body slam him on this grate. I go up to the top rope. And as soon as I get to the top rope, the object was for him to move.
Yeah.
And I'm just going to take the swanton just onto this grate. Just dead on. First bump ever. You know what I mean? Like, first bump
like
in a singles match.
Seems like a great idea.
Yeah, right?
Who's booking this shit?
Tore me up. My bag was all bleeding and bled throughout the whole match too. Finished the match. We ended up going 20 minutes. Way too long. But
that's the biggest thing I noticed in my first couple years of my career, and we were wrestling pretty consistently in the House of Pain and all that. But there was a couple shows a week. But it was like you go out there and you weren't really given times. You were just given, you know, finishes over or whatever.
Right.
And it's like I go back and watch the tape, and I'm like, oh man, that was a banger. And then like 10 years in, I was like, why was I out there for 25 minutes?
Right. I can't even watch them old matches.
Yeah, it's brutal. It's like, let me take these RCA tapes and throw them in the trash.
I keep them. I mean, I have them stacked on the shelf, but I'll never watch them again.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a brutal match. Way longer than we should have went. But I didn't know anything about time then.
Yeah.
And we ended up doing that for like 6 shows, 7 shows, maybe 6 shows. And then it all fell apart because, you know, obviously jealousy gets involved, people's egos get involved, and that got shut down. And then did nothing for about a year, man. Never really thought about, you know, like doing anything else.
And this is a different time frame too, because it's not like now. It seems like there's leagues all over top of each other in certain towns, all this kind of stuff. And so if you want to work, there's work, whether it's
we weren't getting work,
but at that time there wasn't like you had like that and maybe one other thing going on in that whole area. Then like, you know, in the Martinsburg area might have been one or two things, but there wasn't across the board. Like every town had a couple leagues trying to compete, you know, so there wasn't a lot of options.
Well, that's what I think. I mean, other than the shows were free, that's why we were getting like 300 people in this church every 2 weeks because there was nothing else to do.
Yeah,
and it was just a wild time. I look fondly back on it, and I'm just like, that's a fire hazard. You know, well, we were all in danger.
There's different ways to look at it because, like you said, it's free, so that, like, it's not like there's money on the table for anybody on the card working. But at the same time, you're getting to work in front of a crowd, especially a big crowd. Unfortunately, when people do that, regardless of the circumstance, you know, a lot of times some people they'll start believing their own hype and reactions, and it's like, well, they're not paying to see you, so they're going to react differently than if they spend a bunch of money and you need to entertain them. But at the same time, right out of the gate like that, it's also like, now if I don't want to go back to this league that's going to pay me whatever, and there's 100 people sitting there because I work in front of 300.
Right.
Whole different ball.
Well, that's before my all knowledge of wrestling. You know what I mean? So all I knew was that, you know, there's a lot of ego and a lot of tensions involved. And I knew people were getting paid, technically not like wrestlers, but the people at the top were getting paid because they're getting the dues money and all that, and whatever your hustle.
Indie Pro Wrestling 101.
101. And so for a year, did absolutely nothing. And then Randy Fairway, he decided he was going to put his house up or whatever he put on loan or up against something to get a wrestling ring. Found another church that we could put a wrestling ring in. And he decided he wanted to start AOM. And For the longest time, I was just like, yeah, this is gonna be a hell of a concept,
Yeah.
and it could possibly work. And then he wanted me to do like the storyline creative of it.
Yeah, a lot of times that's all it takes to get started. At least is somebody willing to take that chance
Yeah,
and really put something of theirs on the line to get it off the ground.
honestly, out of all the memories as far as like JWA or AON or whatever else involved with, that was the most encompassing of all of it because it ruined a lot for me, and we'll get to that. But the process of writing stories for
Yeah.
so many guys, coming up with characters, and these are guys that are just like coming off the street, and we're just like basically training them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Based off the training that we had, and so I'm trying to create ideas for a lot of guys. I'm trying to create stories for a lot of guys. I'm trying to move this company in a certain direction. I'm not saying that Randy didn't want to have any hand in creative, like he had his ideas and stuff like that, but
Yeah.
it was basically all left on my shoulders for almost like 3.5 years.
Yeah, which is overwhelming because it's hard enough as an independent contractor on your own trying to create yourself and go places and travel around, do that kind of stuff, and then try to pitch what you are to promoters, things like that. But when you're the guy that's trying to figure out what everybody needs to be, and then how everybody fits together, and then from this time to this time to this time, like it's overwhelming. Especially because you're still experienced at this time.
Yeah, and my mind has always been creative because I played in bands.
Yeah,
and I've always wrote stories and did poetry and all kinds of stuff. Like,
and you're one hell of a karaokeer. I've witnessed that myself.
I can do a little bit, but my mind just goes, and I see potential in everything. You know what I mean? In everybody, and I could come up with a lot of characters. A lot of guys came up with their own characters. A lot ran with their own stuff, and I was always cool with that. Whatever, it made it easier for me. It did ruin my marriage. It did ruin my relationship with my kids, like because I put so much into it, and then focused on it so much, and it took me out of my own life space. And I look back on it now, and I'm just like, yeah, all right, I was the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because I put so much effort into other things than what I should have been putting effort into.
So you mean like as a whole, or is that
just
era?
that era?
Yeah.
Because I was married at the time. You know what I mean? And it's just I've put a lot of focus on everybody else.
Yeah.
And didn't put enough focus on the things that were important to me, like that should have been more important to me in my life. And I'll take that to my grave, whatever. I'll accept that. But at the end of the day, everything that I've gone through with AON, as far as with the creative side of things, even if I felt like I never got the respect that I got just from anybody in general looking at the creative ideas that I put in place there, I'm fine with that too, because I know how much it took for me to do all that.
Yeah.
And we had like 23 to 30 guys at any given time, and everybody's ego, it's hard to manage. That's why I got so much respect for all you promoters out here that are just doing that job. And I know what it takes, like mentally, to just sit down one day and just be like, how does this next show go? You know what I mean? And if somebody's going to be difficult about the situation that you put them in, or if somebody's going to give you a hard time, or you know what I mean, and then there's the balance of
there's a lot of tough choices and conversations that need to be had. Because, like you said, I mean, you can have X amount of guys, 20, 30 guys on a show, and it's like you can figure out everything you want to do and think you got all the pieces of the puzzle together, and then somebody has a problem with it, or somebody has another idea. They come to you and try to sneak one in around you, or
somebody goes off script.
And and then you got to worry about the execution. The times if somebody doesn't want to do it, they don't execute the way they would if it's something that they came up with. There's so many different things to it, and then just sit there and have to watch it, especially when you're not in the ring. Like that was the biggest transition I had a problem with, and not to make it about me, but me being in the ring trying to get things done. I was like, at least I can physically try to make this work the way it should. It's me sitting in the back watching through the curtain for somebody to try to realize the idea that I threw at them, and then hoping that they stick to it, because they don't, whether it's they can't or whether they won't or don't want to. It's like I'm just sitting there grinding my gears going, and a lot of times, it exceeds my expectations, and other times it's like, yeah, they screwed that up on purpose. It's not what it should have been because you just didn't listen, and it's tough. To your point, it's so hard to juggle all that.
At some point, we'll get to the conversation of people trying to get their shit in, right?
Because that's been an ever-going conversation in the wrestling business, especially in the independent level. Like, I think if I do the coolest thing tonight, then everybody will remember me more.
It's unbelievable how many guys actually want to go in there and just get like 25 minutes worth of moves in.
Yeah.
And then how am I supposed to come back on that? You know what I mean?
Yeah. See, I'd like my highlight reel for the online world.
Yeah, right.
It's like, but what brings them in next time?
But we ended up doing that. Well, I was, pretty much doing the creative on that for 3.5 years, basically.
Yeah.
And then eventually there was this guy named Jason Davis. He was apparently a millionaire or something. He ran a whole bunch of businesses. And he had some acquaintances with him that were interested in getting involved with AON. They ended up buying it out off of Randy, and they took it to a whole new level with like a TV deal with Fox,
Oh,
ABC,
wow.
and all that, and then put it on TV and running a TV show that was, you could never really guess when the times were going to be. It'd either be a Friday night at 1 a.m. or it'd be a Saturday morning at like 11 or a Sunday afternoon.
So is that just trying to buy the slot that's open?
basically, and at that time you're thinking, wow, this is exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not really thinking it's negative exposure. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Technically,
Well, even if there's 20 people sitting there watching, it's still getting, by your mind, watched by the whole world.
But they were running us into the ground. They were having us doing shows like almost at one point it was weekly. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just all over the place though. Like we would go to State College, we go to Tyrone, do a show in Altoona, do a show in Johnstown,
Yeah.
and it became brutal. And that's what another part where the marriage started slipping, because I'm always doing something other than what I'm supposed to be doing.
Yeah.
And
whenever it's the thing in front of you that's new that needs to grow, it's like this has to be the priority, and trying to juggle that stuff.
Yeah. Once I'm dedicated to it, I'm in it. You know what I mean? So we're just grinding this out, and I would say exhaustion is what tore it all apart, basically. And just looking back at it, like those guys that were running it at the time didn't have no idea about running a wrestling company.
Yeah.
Weren't taking.
Well, we've heard that conversation a lot of times over the years with everybody that's fallen off.
Yeah. And
even WCW.
They weren't even receptive to information from people. You know what I mean? They just believed that what their ideas were the best.
Yeah. So you weren't no longer running like the creative part of
No,
things?
I was still doing it. I was still doing a lot of creative, but a lot of their TV show creative was totally opposite, going in the polar direction of what I was writing, basically. They focused more on their comedy on the TV show and getting themselves over than it was about the actual wrestling and the storylines involved.
Yeah.
So that became a riff, you know what I mean? And then once I started wearing myself out, you know what I mean? I'm seeing everybody else getting wore out. It just became, and then there was a breakaway, and then they started Phoenix Pro Wrestling, and that was a whole other ordeal. But
so was that the same basic players that just repackaged to Phoenix? Is that where that went?
I'm more like, because you were either Team AON or you were Team Phoenix. It was one or the other. You know what I mean? It was.
Okay. So it's not like it's the same thing. You just repackaged it because
it was basically a break off of AON.
Yeah.
And guys doing their own thing, and you know what I mean. Basically, I couldn't explain what was going on in Phoenix at the time because I was so focused on doing AON stuff. But it became a rift between friends, basically, because of all of it.
You work there, I work here.
I went to a Phoenix show one time. It was at the Masonic Temple, and you would have thought that the enemy invaded the whole arena. Because I'm just sitting there, well, I want to see what this is about. You know what I mean? I don't care about walking into the Lions Den. That's never been my issue. But I'm just sitting there, and everybody, I just see like wrestlers in the back standing around watching me, thinking I'm going to do something. Like, it's not that serious, dude. You know what I mean? I just want to see what the hell's going on over here. But because who I was, obviously a lot of people were intimidated. I won't say that I ruined a couple matches just based off my presence, but it seemed like people were off because of my presence being there watching that show. Anyway, I pretty much took some time off there for a little bit, and I ended up being a member of Phoenix Pro Wrestling. Me and Fairway actually came in and invaded with an invasion angle one time. Yeah. And then we joined Phoenix Pro because we knew AON wasn't going nowhere. No, it was just.
So did you already break away from the AON before you talked to those guys, or how was the connection with that? Where it's like,
it was real secretive. It was real secretive. They contacted me in Fairway. It was probably 2 weeks before the show that they were having at the PNG Park down in Johnstown. They're like, how do you guys feel about coming in and doing an invasion angle and being part of Phoenix Pro? Because I was just like, I haven't wrestled in like 6-7 months. I don't care. I'll do it.
Oh, so you're already in the midst of like a hiatus from that place. So there is a little bit of a break off.
A little bit of a break. And because we knew AON was done. Yeah. They were still trying to kick water, but me, Fairway, like Lightning, we weren't trying to be no part of that anymore because it was just wearing us out and it was going nowhere.
Yeah.
And then Phoenix got a hold of us, and we decided to do it. Now, Lightning didn't want to really do it at the time. He was real stubborn about the situation because he was an AON diehard, and I respect that.
Yeah.
But yeah, me and Fairway invaded the Phoenix show and ended up becoming members of the Phoenix Pro roster as a tag team. That was all right. I didn't have no issue with anybody in there at the time. Like, I don't care what you do, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
As long as you're having fun doing it, it doesn't bother me at all.
So what would be the riff on the? You said like about like it threw some matches off, the intimidation factor that you were there. That did they feel like you were like there to do damage? Were you there just to create problems?
I guess.
Was it?
I don't know.
Like from a physicality standpoint, I think you were just going to start swinging on something.
Because
like,
I'm not that kind of guy.
Yeah.
I'm not just going to go into some place and just start a fight. You know what I mean? Like, that's not my thing. I think it's more of an intimidation factor because I was writing stories.
Yeah, like what's he doing and what's the
angle
what's
here?
The motive here?
I just wanted to watch a wrestling event.
Didn't think I allowed to have a day off.
Like if it was that serious, you think I'm coming in there by myself just to start a fight with everybody? Like like you wouldn't expect to see like 4 or 5 of us in here at the same time.
What are you gonna do on this Saturday? I'm gonna go fight 40 people that hate me.
Yeah, for no reason whatsoever. But yeah, I ended up doing this thing with Phoenix for a while, and then Phoenix. My character is so extreme. When I turned from Israel St. Patrick into Israel Sharif Phakur, is a story in itself because that's basically a joke. I was in the War for Territory was our big show every year that we had, and it was War for Territory 3, and I'm fighting basically the owner in the match.
Yeah.
We're having a hardcore match. It's tables, ladders, and chairs, the whole 9. Anyway, the storyline wise, I had a PFA on him that I forgot to pull off him before the match. So he uses that against me after I beat him in the match, that I broke the PFA basically. And I ended up getting arrested, hauled off by security guards and police after that match. And I come back and I'm Muslim. And if you know anything about going to jail, and a lot of guys go to jail and they turn Muslim and they come back and they're still Muslim and all that. That was the angle I was running with. It was basically a joke. And it turned into this like 7-year-long storyline with me just being this Middle Eastern character.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are always like, "Oh, you look Middle Eastern. You look Middle Eastern." And I was like, "Yeah, whatever. I'll just go with it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I played right into it. By the time I get to Phoenix Pro, I take it to the whole new extreme. Like I made a bomb vest. I took that. Yeah, it was a problem. So I took this flap jacket, and I took toilet paper rolls. I used electrical tape, colored them, made them look like Iranian colors. I took wires, glued them to the toilet paper rolls, had a cell phone on the top, the whole 9.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, it was so bad that the PA Athletic Commission actually had to investigate the bomb vest just to make sure it was like fake.
Jeez.
I knew it was bad. I knew it was bad.
Yeah, I passed the line across the line back there.
I knew it was bad when I was making it.
Yeah.
But the effect and the look of it was just so intimidating. So I ran with it for a while. Long story short, this dude sent pictures of my wrestling character to the FBI.
Like legitimately?
Legit. I told him I was affiliated with a terrorist organization.
Is this a guy that's like associated with pro wrestling?
No. No,
he's just a random.
He's associated with my ex-wife.
Oh, okay.
So that whole situation. And this dude sends the pictures. They use the whole see something, say something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, Patriot Act, they're going to kick your door in. I'm at work in my legit job at the time. I remember it like it was yesterday. It was a nice, shiny day. There was like 3 waitresses, 7 people in the restaurant. Nobody around. I remember grabbing dishes, taking them to the back. As soon as I set the dishes down, there's like 13 FBI agents on me. They're like, this is when I knew I was going down. They're like, is your name Israel Sharif Phakur? And nobody ever says my name right.
Yeah.
Not even on the first try. And I looked at him, I was just like, oh my God. What, I knew it had to be something that had to do with wrestling. I didn't know somebody would take it that far.
Yeah.
So they have me at my job, my ex-wife, who's my wife at the time, at her job, all detained. They have a bomb squad around my house, and they're searching for like all kinds of like terrorist activity.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And because she watched my kufi that I used to wear for wrestling and put it in the sock drawer by accident, they thought that was proof right there that I was a terrorist. Anyway, I had some guns I shouldn't have had.
That's never a good thing.
Never a good
circumstances.
I had some guns I wasn't supposed to have, and that's the only thing that they could get me on.
Yeah,
was just having guns. So I ended up doing 3 years for that.
3 years just for possession
of firearms.
Fine.
And so I'm on a 3 year hiatus at this point now.
Now, is that stemming the extremity of that because of the previous prison time that you'd done?
No,
Was that like, hey,
I could have got more. I could have definitely got more probably. I think the fact that they had egg on their face, running up on me thinking I was a terrorist.
Yeah.
The only thing they had on me was them guns.
So the possession of the firearm in PA would be is
3 years. So I ended up doing 3 years, the whole 3 years too. And I was, now wrestling wise, when it comes to all this, I've never wrestled outside of like AON or Phoenix Pro.
Yeah.
I get out. I'm just trying to find my way in life, getting ready to go through a divorce. And Shane Malice hits me up one day. He's just like, hey, you want to come down here to West Virginia and do a show? I was just like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I didn't know if I could still do it.
Something to get a hold of some normalcy again.
You know, but it goes back to my mind, like when I first stepped into a wrestling ring, I was like, I don't even know if I can still do this after 3 years, because 3 years is a long time.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, so I was like, yeah, whatever, I'll do it. And part of me was hesitant because I got slipped back into this character. Now, when the FBI got me, they interrogated me for 8 hours about everything that went on in my life.
Yeah.
Ever since childhood. They asked me if I was affiliated with Iranians. They asked me if I'm friends with Iranians, if my parents are Iranian. Like, I'm just like, this is all stuff that you should already know about me if you've been investigating me for almost 2 months now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So they already had like months of this before.
Yeah. They
showing up.
knew everything about me basically, and they're just like trying to follow up on questions on me. So I spent 8 hours in interrogation, and I was just like, you ain't got nothing better to do than to run up on a wrestler who plays an Islamic terrorist, like, and think that he's a terrorist. And they're like, well, next time it'll be the CIA. I'm just like, is that serious? And they're like, yeah, it's that serious. Which I understand in the climate, you know what I mean, at that time, and whatever. But
it's not even like you could try to seek any kind of reparation for.
Nah,
you know,
they took everything. They took my computer. They took my phone. They took it. Like, it was wild what they're. Once they couldn't investigate as far as the fact that I was a terrorist, because that came up short.
Yeah. They
tried to say I was a member of a militia group. You know what I mean? Because I'm a prepper. You know what I mean? I'm at the end of the day, I'm a constitutionalist. Like, you know what I mean? I believe in the freedom of Americans. Just leave me alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then once they realized that, plus when they had me on TV and they were perp walking me, I had on a t-shirt from, Infowars.com, basically saying, we the people are, and they're just like, how is this guy a terrorist if he's got a we the people shirt on? So a lot of the things that they thought they knew flew back into their face. And so they made me do the max penalty for the guns and all that. Anyway, when I get out, Shane hits me up and asks me if I want to do this wrestling event in West Virginia. I ended up doing that, and it was brutal. I ended up wrestling this guy named Sicken, but I knocked myself out in the match because you don't take bumps for a while.
Yeah,
it's brutal.
Just keeping that chin tucked.
Yeah,
down. It's so easy to smack your head off the ground or something.
Knocked myself out. I got through the match and ended up being like a permanent fixture down there for them. You know what I mean? Did that for 3 years probably.
Where was that?
World Domination Wrestling.
Oh, okay.
Did that for 3 years. I always wanted to be an elite. I always knew about elite, and I always wanted to be an elite. I just didn't. I'm not the type of guy that will come out and just say, "Oh, I want to be here, I want to be there," or try to politic to get my feet in the door. Like, I let opportunities come to me, and I always let my work speak for itself.
Yeah, let somebody knock on your door, unless it's the FBI.
Like, I always.
but instead of going around and asking and being whether it's shut down or trying to ask, I'm very much the same.
Yeah, I'm the same way when it comes to putting matches together. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to be certain aggressive, like telling you how you should do your stuff or like whatever. What do you want to do?
Yeah. And
then I'll work around that. And that's always got me as far as it's got me in wrestling.
Yeah.
Because I'm a more laid back type of guy. I don't need to get all my shit in. I don't need to do all that. What I need to do is make this match good for those people that paid their money, because obviously working hard and having like 5 kids and you're paying to come to a show, that's a little cost to that.
Yeah.
You know, so I always focused on trying to put the best match together I could possibly put, no matter who I'm in the ring with.
Yeah.
And when it comes to the promoters, I'll do whatever you need me to do. I have no ego. Like, you need me to take a squash, I'll take a squash.
Yeah.
That's another conversation we can have about lost art of squash matches. But I love taking squash matches, and I was never one to like, hey, Shane, try to get me in elite, or hey, can you talk to Jake, or hey, can you talk?
I think that's where I had crossed paths with you. I think I was actually wrestling Shane on a show, and I had seen you before, and like Tate had told us, he had mentioned you before. He said we should probably think about bringing this guy in at some point.
I used to see Tate all the time because I was in a little feud with Reggie when he was super young. You know,
yeah, like he's probably not even old enough to wrestle outside of West Virginia.
I think he was like 20 or something like that. Not even 20 maybe. But yeah, me and Reggie had a hell of a good match down in WDWA one year. But I used to see Tate all the time. I was always intimidated because Tate's like, what, 7'4"? You know?
Well, he's got that crazy ass hair too, because he's probably legit like 6'4", 6'5", and then he's got the hair. It's like when he was working with the chains and the mask, and he had the hair froed out like Sideshow Bob. I mean, he's like 6'10".
Yeah, I remember the first time I met you, though. Well, I didn't really meet you. I kind of like got myself involved with you. Like, you were, Shane and Reggie had a match. I think it was a main event match down in WDWA, and it was when it was the Berkeley Center or whatever.
Yeah.
And the match wasn't up to your par, and you were cussing them out in the back.
Yeah. It might have been a tag match, I think, maybe with a couple other guys.
But I remember
off the rails a little bit.
Like, I'm standing there, I'm putting my regular clothes back on, and I hear you going in on them. I was just like, let me take this conversation in so I can just so I can learn. You know what I mean? It wasn't. I just wanted to see like what they did wrong, to see what I can do better because of their mistake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I always learn, if you can learn from somebody else's mistake, you know what I mean, it makes yourself better.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there listening. It was like a good 20 minutes you were in on.
I mean, it's tough because I always looked at it like because they were both wrestling for Elite at the time, and I was like, I don't remember why I was there. I think Danny might have been working in the ladies' match or something, but it was one of those things where I was like, if you're wrestling for us and then you're wrestling somewhere else, and if to me, I'd rather have you not perform on our show under our umbrella, because if you're at that time, there was a lot of press around the area that like whatever Elite was like a place, like a destination for people, and it was like if you're wrestling in Elite and then you go somewhere else and for whatever reason the match shits the bed, I'm like, you're representing us
right
elsewhere. I'd rather have something go wrong for us under our umbrella where it's like they're seeing good. There's got to be bad eventually. There's got to be mistakes, and then it can happen. But I'm like, when you go there, it's like, well, either they're not as good as they think they are, or people say they are, or what are those guys doing there? So that's where I'm like, I don't like to let people have the wiggle room to go out and shit the bed.
I feel
you know what I mean? It's like I could sit there all day and talk about it, but I have weird mentalities because I'm like, as soon as you're anywhere representing Elite represents me, and I worked too hard for almost 30 years now to have anybody question my integrity or my ability or my status that I earned so hard that I can barely get up in the morning. You know what I mean? So it's like that. We'll just leave that there.
Well, that was the moment I was like, I want to work for this guy, because I don't want people to just tell me, oh, that something was good or something was, the same old rah rah you hear every time you come back behind the curtain.
Yeah.
I heard you going in on them. I was like, yeah, that's exactly who I want to work for, man. So I was sitting there taking it all in. I don't know if you were noticing me taking it all in at the time.
No, and I don't even know if I actually had met you officially then. I think that I may have. I think the first time was when I wrestled Shane in a singles there, and I was just kind of like, I was contacted because somebody else pulled out and they needed somebody to come in and do this deal, and I think I had spoke to you, and I think that's the first time I had met you, I think, officially, and like talked about possibly coming in, and Clay Jacobs, I talked to him too, and I think you guys were on the same card, but it was like, but I was like, again, I had never worked for him, and people may have known who I was, but like I wasn't like a staple guy, so right. I was the intimidated guy in the locker room because everybody else is familiar with each other and they're all working. I'm seeing guys that can go, so it's like in a way I'm kind of looking at it like it's, well, there's a guy Tate and I had already talked about meaning you wanting to bring in. Then I see Clay Jacobs. I'm like, man, I've been meaning to talk to this guy because I've seen him a couple times, but I never got a chance to have a conversation. There's a couple other guys, of course, Shane's there, the familiar face that I was working with, but other than that, him and Reggie, but I don't think Reggie was on that card that night. But I was like, there's a lot of people here that I personally know there's potential for with us. But it's like you don't want to go in and seem like you're, poaching people out of somebody's locker.
Well, see, it took me a while to get to Elite because I knew from conversations with Tate and having a conversation with you, like this was an optional destination, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I was already ingrained in WDW, and at this point I was champ. I was TV champ. I was 3-time tag champ. You know what I mean? And a lot of people are thanking me for the house down there, and I'm just, it takes all of us to do this. You know what I mean? At the end of the day. But I just sort of like felt bad at first, like, man, I really don't want to be here. And then me and Clay Jacobs started this feud that was phenomenal. Like, I'll have nothing but love for that guy for the rest of my life. Like, we were getting it in down there, and the crowd was appreciating it, and we were just killing ourselves. And it was just a whole different experience for me with that because I was obviously doing AON and then Phoenix Pro, and then now I'm actually out here, traveling to West Virginia to do this consistently. And then it got to a breaking point, like, most things do. And I ended up doing a double shot. I ended up having to go from a show in Martinsburg and then coming here to do the tag match with Cisco, and we won the tag team title. So it was like from one match to another. But I knew that night was the last night I was going to be in WDWA.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of backstage politics stuff going on.
Yeah.
Stuff that I couldn't look past. And I was just like, it's my last night here.
Yeah.
And I never told them that, but obviously they got the point. So
yeah. And then it was just, a matter of not communicating. Was there a point where you severed that tie officially?
Yeah, I severed that tie officially, and they still try to contact me, still try to get me to come in. And I'm just like, no, I'm good, dude. Like, I don't even want to be part of the Hall of Fame. And I know that's gonna sound like some ego stuff.
Yeah.
But they've contacted me about that before, and I'm just like, no, I'm good. Like, if it got to the point to where I don't even want to be a part of your Hall of Fame, it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I'll just leave it at that. But yeah, I came here and I knew everything here was better. You know what I mean? You, Tate, Shane, everybody's better here. You know what I mean? And I came in and I didn't have much expectation other than to just come in here and just have fun.
No.
And for some reason, you guys strapped the rocket to me, and I don't know why.
Well, it's funny because you'd thank us for it and all that. And I'm like, I'm a big proponent of don't thank me for something you earned. It's like maybe to me, like, because we're just not somebody that's going to say, well, he's the guy we picked, so good or bad, this is what we run with. Like you've seen it, like over the years. We can always adapt to what we need to, but I'm all about like if you're selling tickets, if you're earning it, if the people are invested, if you're invested in yourself and the product and all the other factors that are supposed to go into this, we have no choice. So it's like people don't have to thank me for something that they're doing. Like I just get to sit back and watch it at this point. We might come up with an idea, but and you're one of that handful of rare guys that will bring ideas that make sense. Like everybody's got their ideas, and I'm always open to all of them. And and Tate and I go back and forth with a lot of ideas, and we probably have 1,000 ideas to get to that one that we use. But it's like I'm open to everybody bringing them. But when there's somebody that we've already, you make it easy already for us to come up with a concept to begin with, and then you bring some spices to the mix on the back end after you already kind of understand where our vision is, then and makes it even better. And a lot of times we end up stepping away from our idea to go with your idea and things like that. It's like, man, you can't ask for more than that.
I've been lucky in this business, like to have some great matches and to have some, achievements that I've had here. But man, the things that I did in that first year of Elite being here, I think some of my best matches and the best run I ever had in wrestling was here, obviously. Like that whole 2023. Yeah. It's a short gap. I was unstoppable. Looking at it from a wrestler character.
All the while barefooted. Barefooted. Before I forget, what was that concept like for you? Like, why would you say I want to go barefooted? Because even just initially, it's like somebody's going to step on my foot. I'm going to break my toes whenever I land off on anything. Like,
Von Erichs.
Yeah.
I always liked watching the Von Erichs when they were wrestling barefoot. Yeah. It gave it that ethnic quality to it too. Yeah. You know what I mean?
It's so funny too because like Kevin Von Erich, that's like the guy. As soon as I saw that, I was like, yeah, that looks weird, and
Yeah.
he looks so comfortable doing it.
And the funny thing is, like, I've never broke my ankle in the ring.
No,
Never. I mean, I've tore my toe up a couple times based off little things like in ladder matches and stuff like that.
yeah,
And I've done matches with thumbtacks, and I've stepped in thumbtacks and stepped on Legos and all that. But adrenaline
yeah.
takes that away.
It's not until you get to the back and you're just like,
Yeah, it's brutal.
cut it off.
And then have to walk up steps to your apartment and all that. Yeah, but
Keep finding them later that you didn't know was still there. It's like, son of a bitch. Why is there a thumbtack on my living room floor?
But I felt like some of my best matches, other than the Clay Jacobs feud that I had in WDWA, some of my best matches were here. Like that feud I had with Anthony Athens for the hybrid championship.
Yeah.
That match in Short Gap, I put that in my top 3. Like my number 1 match though is against Reggie for the heavyweight championship. That match, the story that you guys put out there for that, the way it ended, it was just the match itself. Me and Reggie were doing things that we didn't think that was going to be possible to do, so we didn't test it out.
Yeah.
And then all executed.
Yeah. There's something to be said about, you're always told, like, don't try anything in the ring you haven't practiced and those types of things. Well, but I'm a firm believer that once you reach the point where you've proven yourself to yourself, then there's that confidence that, like, I can do this. I don't need to practice it. And, you understand your athleticism. You understand your capabilities. And when it comes to something like that, it's not something you can do adrenaline-less.
Right.
Like, you kind of got to say, okay, here's like, you hear guys talk about, like, the WrestleMania moment. Like, you're not going to see a Shawn Michaels take a moonsault onto the announce table from the ropes in the ring on, like, a house show. Like, we'll save that for the moment it needs to happen. And, it's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, like when we did the spot where I have him on the second rope and we do that power slam on the apron based off him rolling on the rope. Like, we never practiced it. We just talked about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I knew I was going to be safe. You know what I mean? I knew he could do it. Even when we did the Hurricane off the top rope, but the way we were positioned was at an angle, so it was different. Yeah. And he would springboard to do it. I knew it was basically about foot placement. You know what I mean? I could do the front foot bump. Yeah, I've been doing it for years. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just a matter of the foot placement on the ropes. It's knowing what I'm capable of. That's why you never see me do like springboard moonsaults and nothing. I know I can't do nothing like that, so I stay away from it. It has always been that way for me. Like, I know what I'm capable of, and I stay away from what I can't do. Yeah. It's the same way when I'm building matches with my opponents. I don't want to know what you can't do.
Yeah.
Just tell me what you can do, and I'll work around it. What do you do best? Well, there's no reason to focus on what you can't do.
Yeah. So. Yeah, I mean, it's a great way to go with it. I mean, it's one thing if you're just, and that, I think it coincides with what you were saying earlier about, like, how you approach the creative part of your match specifically, is that you're not just going to come in there, go in a china shop and lay out things to somebody. It's going to be like, I'll sit back, just like you tend to be in your demeanor all the time. I'll sit back and just survey the land and then see where I can take control or where it needs to be directed.
It's easier to go that way because I see a lot of conversations in the back. A lot of people are, going back and forth on what's best for, the match for themselves and make themselves look good and all this other stuff. And I wasn't going to be one of them guys. I was early on in my career because I didn't know no better. Yeah. You know what I mean? I wanted to get all my stuff in.
First match, perfect example.
Yeah, perfect example. But once I realized and dumped everything and I sat back and I would just like listen to you, you know what I mean? Or listen to whoever I'm working with and just be like, all right, so I know what I do. You know what I mean? And I know it's going to be aggressive. If you can just handle the aggressiveness of me, everything else is going to work out because I know you're going to want to get your shit in. I'm just going in assuming that you want to. I don't need to get my shit. I know what I'm going to do.
I think one of the funniest surprises that people tend to have to face in the fire is that, like we've talked about already, like your demeanor when you walk into the building is so subdued and so cerebral. And then the creative part of talking about the match or whatever's going to happen or any conversation pre-match. Then when you go into the ring, from your entrance to the initial, but then there's these bursts of explosions. And it's hard to explain, but like you don't realize how fast you can go from 0 to 60. Like when it comes to that,
it's all an illusion.
Yeah, and it's such a contrast from every other thing that you're bringing. Whether it's the promos that you never shout, you never raise your voice. Very Jake the Snake Roberts-esque because it's everybody shuts up because everybody wants to hear what you're being said. But at the same time, it's like at any moment this could pop off and it could explode in your face. I don't. To me, that was something that just gravitated myself at a curtain and every fan that was watching the same. It was like at any moment it can explode, but it's like leaning into the TV because it's quiet, and all of a sudden it's scared, and it's like holy shit.
Oh, it's all by design.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't. It's not something. It's like it's all by design because I know that moving slow.
And I love that you say that because I know 100% that it's not spoken from ego; it's spoken from a plan that was put in place.
Because I once I understood, once I started slowing down in the ring after I learned more, and just studying the art more, I realized that my character, if I move slow in certain spots, it makes me look a lot faster than what I really am. You know what I mean? If I just burst.
It's a great point. Yeah.
So
you see that right now, main event in every pay-per-view with Roman Reigns. He has almost that same mentality. Mm-hmm. Like you see him, and he's like going out there with like a textbook wrestling match and showing what he can do and how clean everything is and how precise. And then when it's time to go, he goes. And there's very few people in the world that can keep up with that.
Right. And then it's also like a lot of the moves that I used to do. I used to want to do a lot of moves when it came to being a heel.
Yeah.
I'd just trickle that down. You know what I mean? I used to get a lot of heat from Tate though, because he'd be like, "You're too generous. You're too generous." And you should be beating be beating these guys a lot better than what you're beating these guys. And I'm just like, well, I felt like if I don't let them get their shine in, to the point to where I let them get it in, I'm helping build their confidence at the end of the day. And I take a lot of, like, you guys got a great trainer here in Aaron, you know what I mean? You got Shane Malice, you know what I mean? You got a lot of veteran guys, Jacob Edwin, you know what I mean? That I've seen these guys around for a long time, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And these guys do everything they can to make the young guys better. And that's what I loved about this place. And that's why you always see me behind the curtain. I'm hyping guys up. That's my job. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I could sit there and I could tell you you're doing great all day. My job is to get you hyped before you go out that curtain. You know what I mean? Aaron's going to train you. Aaron's going to train you right. Malice is going to teach you all the technicals and tell you exactly like why this works and why this don't work. Jacob's there. He's hardest working man in the business right now, ain't he?
Yeah, right.
But his experience is second to none. And then you just got me, you know what I mean? I don't have no ego. I want to see everybody else do good. And I've always wanted to see the young guys here in the elite grow. You know what I mean? That's always been my thing. Because you look at Troy. I remember my first match with Troy. The only thing he got in that match was like a leapfrog or something like that. He got on a monkey flip or something. Yeah. That was all he got. And he was so happy with it because I told him he did a good job. As long as you do a good job on the one thing and you listen, that's the most important thing, and you can grow from there. It's about planting the seed. You know what I mean? You can't just plant it in the ground and you're going to be a tree tomorrow. You know, it takes time. It took me time. It took me a lot of time to get this right. So I like watching a lot of these young guys grow. You know what I mean? So I hype them up behind the curtain. Sometimes I hype Cisco up so much he comes out, he's already gassed. And
he's got a pretty good tank.
Yeah, he's got a pretty good tank. But it's the motivation because there's people coming here that are paying almost, $10 a pop, $15 a pop, depending on the show, whatever it is. And then they got kids, and they're bringing their wife, and they're bringing their friends. Yeah. And it's not easy to be working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, and then have to come here and then sit down and watch a wrestling show when you can be doing other stuff. Like you have to appreciate the people that actually paid their money to come see you do what you do. You know what I mean? Because they want to be entertained. Don't go out there and half-ass it. That's my biggest pet peeve when guys go out there and they're just going through the motions.
Yeah, I've had a couple of those things over the years where this is years ago in other organizations and stuff where you hear the guys across the room, across the locker room talking about there's only X amount of people out there, so let's take it easy tonight or something like that. Like I'm not taking it easy, so you're not taking it easy.
Nah, man. Listen, if I took it easy, that's how you get hurt.
Yeah,
it's always my philosophy. It's one of the reasons why you never see me practice in the ring. Like I never really came in here and just would practice match with anybody. It was never really my thing because I know that's when you're going to get hurt.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, when you're just 50%, you're going to end up twisting an ankle.
It goes right into that adrenaline thing. Yeah, if you don't have that helping you to absorb some of that stuff, then it goes from impact to injury real quick.
Yeah, like when I watch guys in here just practicing and getting real physical, I'm just like, I don't know if that's the best idea, dude. Like
here it comes.
Like I'll run the ropes and I'll take my bumps, and then I'll just sit and I'll just figure out my movements and what it's like, the footwork in the ring.
Yeah,
you got to understand where the padding and the board, or what I mean, there's little things that a lot of guys don't take into consideration when they're in this ring, and that's why I just You don't even see me now get in the ring and do anything because if you're not there mentally, you
Yeah.
shouldn't be in here.
Yeah.
That's always been my thing. Like, I know when I'm going to be mentally ready to even just run the ropes.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to disrespect the ring by being in here and not being mentally ready.
Yeah, and I think to jump back to what you were saying about the young guys and stuff like that. I mean, I think, and I try to say this without acting like I'm lecturing people, but it's like if you can be everyone else's best match, you'll have good matches.
Mhm.
You'll have your best matches easily because I'm a big proponent of if you're everyone's best match, everybody's going to want to work with you. And whenever that happens, everybody's going to want to book you. And then it's smooth sailing. Like you've got what you want. You can get booked wherever you want to against everybody you want to because everybody's going to want to work with you. And I feel like that's a lost art. Leslie Leatherman was always a guy that was like the most giving guy in the world. And I got to mirror him for the first 20 years of our career. And I learned that because it was like he always called himself the jobber to the stars because, you get booked with all these names. Like, you're not getting booked with all these names because you're a good jobber. You're getting booked with all these names because they're not going to get hurt and you're going to have a phenomenal match
Right.
and they get to look like the guy that we used to watch on TV. And you were that guy. And and I tried to emulate that. And I got a lot of cool opportunities by taking his mentality. It reminded me of what you just explained. It was like, you don't have to be the superstar because as soon as you help these guys become players, you're the superstar,
Right.
because you're the catalyst for them. And then people think of it in reverse. They're like, I got to be the one that's winning. I got to be the one that's getting everybody over. I got to be the doing all the moves and
I got family coming.
holding all the belts and and all that. And I'm like, or everyone around you can be better than they would be if you're not there, and then you turn out to be the most prized possession in the entire roster. And that's one of the things one of the boxes that you got to check for a pretty significant chunk of time.
I like watching people get better. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because if I'm not helping you get better, I'm not getting better.
Yeah.
They say you can't give it without you can't keep it without giving it away.
Yeah.
And I've always kept that in my mind when it comes to working with the younger guys. And the intimidation factor when it comes to the young guys looking at somebody like me or wrestling someone like you know what I mean? To get them out of that nervousness is a work on its own. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure. There's so many times where I had that and there's people that I've seen do that with you because it's like he doesn't talk. He does all these crazy moves, like all the different things that go into it. They don't they don't know how to approach you and do that because a lot of young guys don't know how to look somebody in the eye.
Right.
But I've run into that too with myself where one, it'd be like Leatherman or somebody stoking the fire saying, oh man, he's gonna beat the shit out of you. And it's like, and I remember we had a funny laugh all the time when we think about it with me and Shane Mouse the first time we worked. People were doing that to him, and I'm like, I'm sitting back there with nerves because I'm like, I'm not gonna keep up with him. He does a lot of cool shit that I can't do. So like, do I slow him down so I can keep up, or do I, what are we gonna do? It ended up being a great match. It was a lot of fun, but like it took him out of his element. I was a little bit out of my element because it was a different style than I was used to working. But at the same time, it was like, it's still, but I'm like, he was nervous about that because people were in his ear and thinking that it was just going to turn into this, like, throw furniture at him and do all this shit. But there was a couple chair shots. I'm not going to go into it, but, I mean, there's so much to all that stuff and just being able to give back. And it's like you said, it's like, what's the point in having? It's like having a ton of money and taking it with you. Like, you can't take it with you. So it's like if you've gained this knowledge through your own work and your own perseverance and your own, just going after it and after it, and if you're lucky enough to stay healthy long enough to accumulate that, like just to keep it for yourself, what do you
don't benefit
when you can start sprinkling it around and then you can walk away better than it was when you found it. It's like,
and then when you have that type of knowledge and you pass it on, it reinforces what you already know. You know what I mean? So it helps everybody out.
I think it's a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. I mean, it took me a while to wrap my own head around it. In different places, where it's like you want to get there so bad and you want to learn it so much that you feel like you're always trying to catch up, and then you kind of turn this corner where you get to the point where it's like, oh, I have all this that I can give to everyone else and actually make it better. Like I on the way in, I don't want to make it worse than it was before me, but now it's like I made it better on my way. It's a weird revolving door.
The thing that also on the flip side of that, because there's always two sides to every blade, is when you have that much knowledge and then you go up against somebody that has just as much, if not more than you do, and it becomes a clash, And I always try to avoid that clash. So I'll just be like, what do you want to do?
Yeah.
And then I know what I'm going to do. So I'll just fit this in here and here and here.
Yeah.
But it's just so much more rewarding when you're working with younger guys that just don't really understand the business that much yet. And then you get to pass on what you know, and then you see them grow in their next couple matches, and you're just like, I'm so glad he used that as a suggestion. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It makes me feel better when I tell people like that.
Yeah, like you said, when you're with somebody that's on your level, when you're booked in a higher level and you've got the experience and stuff, it's like those debates on who's going to take more or less and who's going to win or like
I've always been
we're
good
both trying to do the same thing here.
Yeah, I've always been good at just getting my ass beat. So I'll fall back to you. Whatever you want to do, I'll just fit my stuff in here. So it makes me go back to thinking about when me and you had that first squash match.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting there thinking the whole time when you're telling me what the situation was, I was like, oh man. As soon as he gets in this ring and I start throwing my punches, because you know how I feel about my punches, I was like, I'm going to catch him one time. He's going to be mad. That was the first thing. And then as soon as you slid into the ring, I caught you right on the neck. I was like, oh man,
there it is.
Yeah, I was so hyped for that because the way I knew I was going to sell that spine buster the way I did.
Yeah,
and it's just everything, the intensity, and it goes back to like when I was saying about squash matches are a lost art, man.
Yeah.
At that time, nobody could have seen me taking a squash match. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's why it worked.
Yes.
They didn't expect me to come out anyway, but then when I did and emerged through the curtain, and then with DB on crutches, and then we went right into it. And I mean, I don't know if I guess there's different definitions to it because with that being so out of the blue, it's very flukish, as opposed to like those '80s squashes where a guy would go out for 8 minutes and beat the shit out of somebody and no offense. This was so flash in the pan, in your face and
high intensity,
in and out. It was like the bell practically didn't stop ringing, but it caught people off guard so much that it was just as intense of a reaction and emotion as if it were a 20-minute banger. So that was one of my funnest pieces of business that last year or two that I worked.
I get why promoters don't want to put squash matches on indie shows because you don't want to pay some guy to have to come in and take like a 3-second match.
Yeah,
but they have their place, and they're not used enough. But man, when they're executed the way that we executed it that night, man, it's money.
Yeah, and I think too because there wasn't so long of a turnaround because we have some people would say it's the luxury, but we have the task of running so rapidly that that happened on like a Saturday. We're right back here on Thursday to keep the story going. It's not like you're sitting there for 6 weeks waiting to hear like the reaction of both sides.
Right.
So from the storytelling standpoint, we have so much more freedom than a lot of organizations and the indies have because they don't run so often. It's like you were saying in those early days that they're running, pretty rapid.
Yeah.
Like once a week or whatever. It's like it's so much harder, easier with a slash in the middle to do things because like keeping it up from an episodic standpoint and make it make sense moving forward and week after week after week, especially when you're talking about months or years at this point for us. That part is so hard, but then it's easy in the way that like if we do this now and it doesn't work, we only have a few days until we can make it right.
Right.
Or we can try things that we normally wouldn't because like if they're coming here and then they got to wait another 4 or 6 weeks to get a payoff, nobody's going to remember that shit. So like we have to make it so in your face that it's hard to forget. But then you're not getting all those little nuances that you need for the whole story to be told.
That's another problem that I always saw with indie wrestling. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to have TV every week to keep people's memories involved in the storyline.
Yeah.
So you have to make it memorable and drag it on for as much as you can and make them keep remembering. But when you have a gap like every other month or every 2 month show, like it's hard to keep a story going.
It's like watching a movie with no lines. It's just got here's the explosion, here's the good guy getting hurt, here's the good guy coming back and winning. And
so you have to hit impact storylines, show burst storylines, as I used to like to call them. Because if not, then they're not going to remember what happened. Unless you're putting out DVDs and all that, They're not going to remember.
And I'm all about the moments, but when it comes to like the meat and potatoes of the whole thing, man, having it so often is such a freaking.
How have you not gone crazy?
It's tough.
I bet,
because if people were behind the scenes saw as many debates and not arguments, but like back and forth that Tate and I have before anybody else is even involved in it, and then that becomes like a convincing or not wanting to do things or having to talk people into stuff or just figuring out like reading everybody else's like I should be a psychologist because I can read so many people's personalities and then understand how to approach each person with the same conversation and how they're going to react, and I can kind of like lead in a certain way. So in that way, it's my sanity only retains by trying to keep everyone else's sanity.
I feel you.
And if it makes sense, and it's hard to explain to people that have never been in that position of one trying to be creative, especially that much quantity of creativity. Because I talk to Gallows about this all the time because he runs a league in Georgia. I'm like, it's so much harder to have 25 guys sit there and come up with 8 matches every week, 16 different roles that people have to play, as opposed to whenever I was just working and having fun and sitting in the corner of a locker room bullshitting with my buddies and then going out for that 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes. And that's all I had to worry about was me and my opponent and making that good.
Right.
And now it's like it's kind of like that coach and a team. It's like if it goes good, everybody's getting the props, and if it goes bad, the booker sucks.
Yeah, there's a lot of different outcomes too. You gotta,
Yeah.
you can't do the same outcomes all the time.
It's hard because the originality, and then because a lot of the same people in the same towns, it's like you can't get away with anything even similar. Like
Yeah.
there's philosophies, and there's always going to be in wrestling, but it's like trying to use all these universal concepts and then make them independent of themselves for what you need. And it's like trying to get far enough away from one you use to even try to approach that sort of dynamic way down here, just so to help you out. But it's a learning process, and I mean it still is for me. I was like, I still learn more every week than I ever thought.
Oh yeah, there's no stopping.
And it's almost 3 decades that I've been in there, and it's like, man, this is like I'm still trying to figure shit out.
I know,
because about the time you start getting to where you're so familiar with everybody and how to execute everybody and all that, and then somebody gets hurt or somebody moves on to another area, or we got a couple guys coming down the pike that's moving down to Florida to get some more exposure, but like now we don't have them, so now we got to bring more guys up and try to start from scratch with a few new people and all the other aspects of it that nobody ever sees that paid. And it's like, but we still got to figure out how to replace an ISP or whatever. I mean, and you were a guy that stepped up in the place of a Bodie Williams or a Leslie Leatherman or a Shorty Smalls or the guys that were holding this thing together in those first handful of years. So, I mean, it's a revolving door, and it's a reciprocal business, but it's a challenge.
It definitely is. And it's a brutal challenge too.
Yeah,
like mentally draining.
It's very thankless.
Yeah,
when it comes to that stuff. That's the thing about the creativity, like you were talking about, when you were coming up with all these concepts and different things. I mean, what was the response that these guys had? Did they typically just know you're the guy doing that and I need to fall in line, or was there conflict when
a lot of them didn't really know any better? You know what I mean? So they just went with whatever. I mean,
yeah.
There's still concepts that I have out here that guys are still on the streets with. You know what I mean? They're still running the indies with it. Like almost like 15 years later, still running with the same concept that I gave them 15 years ago. Which is, shout out to me. But,
hey, maybe it was that good of an idea,
right? But yeah, it's a lot of the guys that didn't know any better, but we're happy to have a gimmick, happy to have a character, and it all worked out for everybody involved for the most part.
Yeah. So now I wanted to jump into the writing and stuff like that, because I mean, like we said, to me, like I had no idea that was a path that you were following until you had already left wrestling. Was that something that kicked into gear when you left wrestling, and it was like you had more time on your hands to really pursue that passion?
Well, I wrote a lot of songs for a long time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I wrote a lot of poetry. I would dabble in stories, and then once I left wrestling, I had nothing. I'm already broken at this point.
Yeah.
And I have all these thoughts in my head. At first it was just writing down just thoughts.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because everything that was going on family-wise, everything that was going on with me, everything that was going on around me, I had to write stuff down because I didn't have no other outlet. Like I would come into this ring and just beat myself. That was my outlet. You know what I mean? So just destroying my body basically.
Yeah, because there was a lot of times where it was obvious you were hurt, and I would ask you, and you were like, "No, I'm good."
No, I was tore up.
And it's like, I tend to try to keep a survey of the land on guys, because there's a few of you guys that are like that, and I'm like, if I know you're hurt and you're saying you're not hurt, you must be injured. Jason Rad is the same way.
Right.
Both of you guys fall right in that category.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I was beat up. I was run down so much from WDWA basically,
yeah,
and it started taking a toll on me here towards the end. But then everything that went down with my family
yeah.
situation just mentally broke me.
And that was another thing. Without getting, you can go into it as much as you want, but when you left wrestling, it was a severed tie. You just stepped away, and then you went dark, and nobody
Hmm.
had it really any con.
It was hard for me to justify mentally how I could sit here and play a bad guy or a superhero, depending on however you looked at my character,
No,
knowing that things were going on behind the scenes that were destructive to my family
no,
at the time, and it tore me up.
no.
You know what I mean? And I didn't know how to process that.
That was a
And
hard thing for a lot of people because there was a lot of people that got to the point where they're worrying about you pretty deeply, but
oh
there
yeah,
was no way to get a hold of you or no way to get
they had
contact.
every right to be.
And
I ain't gonna lie to you. I
and
was
yeah,
so far down. I was so far down in the rabbit hole at that point. Like it is sad because I ended up missing Cisco's wedding that I
yeah,
was supposed to be in. You know what I mean? I was down to 195 pounds. You know what I mean? I
yeah,
usually run around 210, 215. Like Taylor tried to reach out to me. You guys reached out to me. You know, Shane would reach
yeah,
out, and it's just like I just went black, straight dark.
yeah,
You know what I mean? It's just like I couldn't talk to nobody. I didn't want to show my face to anybody. Like it was that bad.
yeah,
And then I'm dealing with a whole bunch of extra stuff on top of it. And there was 2 times where I almost tried to kill myself. Like I overdosed one time, and then the other time I was gonna stab myself in front of everybody. You know, it was brutal. I was
yeah,
in a dark mental spot. I didn't ever think I would ever see any of you guys ever again.
yeah,
You know, to be honest with you, and I don't know how to explain it other than the fact that I was just broken.
yeah. I mean, it's so hard to have no answers when you want to ask so many questions,
Mm-hmm.
but you don't want to talk out loud. And it's like you said, you didn't want to talk to anybody. Everybody wanted to talk to you, and neither one of you had a way of doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And just to try to figure out how that can process is
I'm
tough.
so like to be sitting here today.
Yeah,
Just say I'm just sitting there like I don't even understand how I was able to get through everything that I got through mentally.
yeah,
But it was because of writing. You know what I mean? Once
yeah,
I started writing down my thoughts and started putting like and I started investigating like all right, how can I put these stories that I'm coming up with and put them out there for the world?
yeah,
You know what I mean? And I started looking into all that and that started occupying my time.
yeah.
Started taking me out of the places that I shouldn't have been in. You know what I mean?
Small goals and
And it
just
just kept piling up and
yeah,
piling up and piling up, and I just started getting better and better and better at it.
yeah,
And then the breakout story is called New York City Slaughter. Um, I was thinking of like, how can I create a horror concept that's on par with like Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Because I feel
yeah,
like that's like the greatest horror movie slasher grindhouse type style movie of all
yeah,
time. So if and that scared the hell out of me when I was 12 years old when I first watched it.
yeah,
Like that movie was so gritty. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And I was like, how can I create a story that's on par with that?
It was always very much you can put yourself right there in that spot as the victim and be like, what would I do if I was in that position?
Yeah, well, this long story short. So I created this concept where, all right, what if I base it 3 years before Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which came out in 1974. So I set this story in 1971 and I put it in New York City. And during that time in New York City, you know, that's the drug culture, ghetto. It's pretty bad. It's pretty
Yeah,
gritty itself. And these kids from Pennsylvania decided to go and check out this like underground like music concert, so sort of like rave type deal,
yeah,
but it's in an abandoned warehouse. Well, here it's all set up anyways. It's not even a concert. It's not even rave. It's nothing. They go there and it's like the house full of warehouse full of killers. You know what I mean? Just
yeah,
it's not a family per se like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, but it's a group of people all together that decided they're just going to
yeah,
kidnap people off the streets. People come in and there's a abandoned warehouse and they're just going to murder them, slaughter them, whatever they do to them. And they use industrialized weapons. There's a final girl scene. It's pretty brutal. Like I wouldn't recommend any kids read my books.
yeah,
Like it's that bad. And then the doctor scene where he's talking to the police about her injuries in the story, because in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, she ends up getting away from Leatherface, and when the truck picks her up and she's
yeah,
driving on the. Well, I take that scene even further in the story. So there's an escape. She gets away, but once she gets to the hospital, it becomes even worse. You know what I mean? So I implement all these details into it, and I was like, what if this was the blueprint for Texas Chainsaw Massacre? So I had to go back and I had to edit some pieces, you know what I mean, to make it
yeah,
seem like, all right, if somebody turned this script down and said, all right, we can't publish this, we can't use this. And it got passed around in horror circles, like underground. This is the story premise concept. And it got passed around in horror circles. And then somebody saw it and they decided to make Texas Chainsaw Massacre based off it. It has to feel like similar to that. You know what I mean? Like with sort of like the concept and the discrepancies in the story.
Yeah.
And man, this story ended up just 2 weeks ago got banned from distributing. Like I have 5 copies. I have 5 physical copies right now in my possession of New York City Slaughter. You can get it on Amazon right now on an ebook, but Barnes and Nobles won't sell it. Kobo won't sell it.
It's just the brutality of it.
It's so brutal.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's the end scene that did it, because there's a clothes hanger abortion scene in the movie. Well, not in the movie, but in the book.
Yeah.
That I took, and just instead of having her just get away and that's the end of like in Texas Chainsaw Massacre, that's the end of the movie. That's where it ends. I take it a step further.
Yeah.
She ends up getting pregnant. So when she's pregnant to one of the dudes that was doing all these horrible acts to her, there's a clothes hanger abortion scene. That's what got the book banned.
Yeah.
So
is there a way to try to step back from enough to, I mean, you don't want to be, I mean, regardless of what somebody else's perception of it is, you still have the freedom of speech to do what you want, but they also have the freedom to say, well, we can't do that, like apparently they did with the band. But is there a way without it?
There's other distributors. Yeah. There's other distribution centers that I could go through that I'm gonna have to, get into contact with if I decide to republish that book again. Yeah. But I got other stuff in the works. It's probably gonna be even worse than that. I mean,
will that book, lose its
no, its value will go if say I put out 2 more books and they actually blow up and they're good. Yeah. Like I'm holding on to 5 of the holy grails of extreme horror,
because people are going to want that more. Yeah.
Especially if I were to blow up and I sign those, it could be like $350 a pop for each one of them books. But obviously, I'm going to keep one for myself, because that's a hell of an achievement to have a book published.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's super exciting. I mean, it's just one of those things that, like, it's a box to check, and it's not easy. It's not. Now, is everything that you're writing, is it all in the horror genre?
No, I wrote one love story. I mean, I did write one love story. A lot of my stuff is cosmic horror. Like I do a lot of things that make you think. Yeah. I have a lot of psychological horror, but lately I've just been on this gore horror stuff because for some reason a lot of people are really into it. You wouldn't even imagine how many people are actually into that extreme horror stuff. Yeah. But it got out a lot of angst and a lot of anger that I had for a long time in the last year and a half, 2 years. So.
Yeah, well, I mean, motivation is motivation, period. And it's like if you're in a dark place and you can take a turn to be creative in a dark way, it does chip away at some of that stuff.
Well, I believe that there's horror in everything. So it's easy. I have so many concepts in my head. That's why it's hard for me to sleep at night sometimes, because I'm always thinking. Yeah. And I always thank wrestling for that, because I've been able to write stories for 20 to 30 people at one given time. Yeah. I played in a band. I was able to write songs and tell you stories through music, what I mean? And then it just progressed. Like the one story I wrote, I don't know if you ever got a chance to see it on Instagram. I always put my excerpts on there. It's called Texas Deathmatch. It's the only pro wrestling story I ever wrote. But the concept of it, organization, is trying to cover up the fact that one of the storyline writers was sexually assaulting one of the female valets who was trying to be a wrestler. She jumped because she didn't know any better. Yeah. But there's a good guy. His name's Outlaw Barry Barry Stearns. He decides that he's going to take her under his wing, and he's going to try and bring down the whole company. So they employ this guy named Helix. He's a heel. Yeah. But he's more like
Helix is a nice play on.
Yeah. Well, he's like a New Jack. You know what I mean? So they set up this Texas death match, and they're going to, on live pay-per-view, they conspire to have Outlaw Barry Stearns pretty much get killed in the ring under Texas deathmatch rules. Yeah. And then claim that was an accident.
Like Piper said, it's the only place you can go and kill somebody and get it and basically go to the bar afterwards.
And a lot of people look at things like that and they're just like, there's no horror in pro wrestling. Well, if you were ever in pro wrestling and you were ever put in a situation like that, that's a horror story. Yeah. You know what I mean? Because I'm not saying I've ever seen anything like that ever, but I can imagine that there's places in the world that probably have tried that. Yeah. You know what I mean? And I look at everything in the world. It's not that monsters are like say Jaws or Bigfoot or Freddy or Jason are the people are monsters.
Yeah.
When you get to know people long enough and you live long enough in this world, you start to understand that there's a dark side to everybody. You
Yeah.
know, and every person that you know, there's a person that
Well,
you
look at
don't
the
know.
Bruiser Brody situation. I mean,
Yeah, oh, dude,
his killer's still walking around.
right, and that could be a story in itself.
Free
You
and
know what I
clear.
mean?
Yeah, I mean that's about as horrific as it gets.
I mean, you think about the Jimmy Superfly Snuka story.
Yeah.
Like, allegedly, whatever happened, happened. You know what I mean? But if you really sit there and you analyze that story, that's wild.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's kind of.
I think people go on. You're only seeing what's presented to you, and then you're thinking about and there's so many other countless stories that you're getting a perspective years or decades later. But it's like everybody puts their it's like speaking into your ear, and then you speak to the next guy, right. And the next thing you know, that story's been blown to so much. It's unbelievable.
And some of the greatest horror is where the reader has to put the pieces together themselves mentally. When you just like I'm working on this one about shipping containers, and I was just telling Shane on the way down here about you gotta understand and study people that are running crane operators and shipping weights and manifest and all that.
Yeah.
These people are getting empty shipping containers, but there's residue of like chemical weapons in one. There's residue of like black magic rituals happening in another. Mm-hmm. There's ones that have like evidence of human trafficking, and there's ones that have evidence of torture, but there's nothing in the shipping containers.
Yeah.
And it doesn't match the weight on the manifest. And then once you start putting together like what these people are finding on the docks, and you start putting the pieces together, like what happened in that shipping container, and you start thinking, you let your memory and your imagination make the horror for you. It makes my job a lot more easier.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you don't even have to give the details. Like, no. People's imagination can take that ride for you.
Yeah, it's effective too. And there's a lot of pro wrestling psychology in my stories too. It doesn't matter what we can have nothing to do with pro wrestling in the story.
Yeah,
I take the shine, heat, comeback, hope spot, take it home, in every story that I write.
Yeah. It's like every great action movie.
Yeah,
same deal.
It works in everything. You know what I mean? So I'll sit there and I'll build you up. I'll make you shine. I'll shine up the good guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In the story, and then we'll just.
It seems simplistic, but then it can get so in depth that it's art.
I mean, if it's good enough to hook millions of people in the wrestling business, why is it not good enough to hook people?
I mean, and when you talk about like all the multimedia of it, like it's like you were saying about doing the songwriting thing, like that's been a hobby of mine now for the last handful of years, and up to like 70 songs that I've written, and it varies what the topics are, but it's like one of those things where I'll just get a concept and then I'll just keep writing things to it, and then eventually it becomes something. And I mean, it's just such a fun thing. Is that something that you do when you're writing? Is it something where like something will just pop in your head? I got to write this idea down before I forget
it. Yes, I do.
And then the rest of it.
Once I write the idea down, because I put it on my phone in my notepad.
Yeah.
Because I don't ever just like hand.
The technology is so great.
Right. I can instantly think of something and just put it on my phone.
Speak it into something.
Every story I write, I start with the end. Yeah. Because it's a pro wrestling.
I did that with matches.
I did that with matches. I do it with everything now. Yeah. Because I think if I create the ending, I work backwards from that, just the way you would in a match. Because if you sit there and you tell me, all right, me and Shane are going to be in a match and this is how I want it to end, now it's up to us to how do we get to that? You know what I mean? So we just work backwards from there and figure it out. It's so easy.
It's like de-evolving the characters from the ending to the beginning.
And it makes the story more impactful too, because the ending is so explosive. You know what I mean?
And I think that's why when you see movies come out and then somebody does a prequel, it's like, I want to see that to see how it started.
Right.
And I think like you're saying, because like I said, I did it with matches for years. Like all I need is where we're getting to, and then everything else. Like these things can mean so much more if I know where the destination is. Like that whole concept of the journey having, you can decide the journey instead of getting there and it's like I'm not sure which turn. Like and then eventually we get there, but it's like it offers so much more creativity. I think.
I wish the young guys would, know that early in their career. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because psychology is everywhere in everything with wrestling. You know what I mean? It's not just the match. You know what I mean? The whole show is built off psychology. Yeah. You know what I mean? You can't just go out there and have a fucking 15-minute banger, triple threat tables, ladders, and chairs match and expect the next match to be like a hardcore street fight.
Yeah.
You got to build up to everything that you have to get to the main event. And that's the reason why it's the main event. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So with the match psychology, the show psychology, the end goal, you're building up to a big show. You know what I mean? You can have all these shows that's building up to a big show, and that's psychology in itself, because how do you want to get to that? You know what I mean? And it all works backwards.
It's like you can't sprint cross country.
No,
It's not
you,
sustainable.
you can try.
Yeah. And then when you blow up a couple miles down the road, it's like, all right, well, where do we go now?
Yeah,
We got a long way to go to get there.
Now you're walking.
Yeah.
So.
And, well, these days they're calling Uber, I think. Man, so you were talking about Reggie with your favorite match. Like, what is a few of the other matches that you had that really stand out in your career from the in ring stuff? Because you had such a unique style that sometimes that can be the best matches because you had such a contrast to work with. And the fact your style was so unique that it wasn't like you were going in there with somebody that was able to mirror what you did. So it was always a contrast.
I can't say, I mean, I've had bad matches. I can't say that I've ever dealt with somebody really difficult.
Yeah.
I've had matches with DeMarcus King that were fire. You know,
Yeah.
I've had matches with Shane Malice that were fire. I've had I'll tell you what stands out to me the most. Corey Bush. Me and Corey Bush, he was my first feud coming out of COVID. We had a 3-match series in WDWA. And I didn't really know Corey all that. I've seen him around. I've watched him work. I never had an interaction with him as far as match-wise goes.
Yeah.
But easiest guy to work, in my opinion. He's so big, though.
Yeah.
I was like, my whole objective based on everything that Corey does is for him not to give me that avalanche splash. That was like how we based the whole 3 matches. Yeah. He's not going to splash me. And I knew the crowd would get mad because that's all they wanted to see was just me.
Yeah, weird thing in wrestling called storytelling.
Yeah, that's all it is. And if I can just keep that one move away from the crowd ever getting to see it, it's going to be money. And he used to tell me all the time, man, that brought his confidence back. I don't know what he was going through at the time. And I know COVID like messed up a lot of people, you know, for that whole year that we were dealing with all that and whatever you're dealing with confidence-wise. But, yeah, I'm so laid back and so easy to work with, man. I can build your confidence and make you look good. And I know how I'm going to get myself over. It's just, and I love those 3 matches that we had. You know what I mean? So that's one of them feuds that I overlook a lot of the time when I sit back and I think about, oh, well, it wasn't a banger, you know what I mean? But it was good confidence.
In the same sense of the word. Like, it doesn't always have to be about the moves. No. Like, if you get the moments right, you know.
I met a really good dude based off those 3 matches, you know what I mean, that I didn't know. I always heard about Corey. You know, I've seen him work and I've seen, you know, him in the back and stuff like that. But, like, I really bonded with Corey after that. There was a time I got booked for a show. I won't even name the company, but it was in Pennsylvania. And they wanted me to do, obviously my gimmick is controversial. Yeah. They wanted me to interrupt the national anthem. Yeah. And I knew, because I've done that twice before. It's always a bad situation when I do that.
For sure, yeah.
But I don't know these people. You know what I mean? So I'm on my paranoid phase. It's a setup. Yeah.
Hey, it only takes one time of having your door busted down.
Well, the reason why I felt real weird about them too is because the night before I'm wrestling this guy named Zach Ramsey's, and I separate my shoulder in the match. So I drive the whole way out there the next day, and we do an 11-hour training. They know my shoulder's messed up, and I gut it out. You know what I mean? Like, because I'm glutton for punishment, whatever.
Like an 11-hour training in wrestling?
It was 11 hours in a commercial shoot. But they trained us for like 11. It was just like cardio stuff and just like bumping and just do unnecessary stuff. Yeah. And you know how I feel about like doing practice stuff in the ring. You know what I mean? Like, I get you're testing everybody's conditioning and all.
Yeah, the wear and tear in training is way worse than what you're taking.
And then run a mile on top of it too. Yeah. You know what I mean? And then come and do a commercial and then do interviews and all. But my shoulder's black and blue, completely black and blue, because I went over on a German suplex too hard. Yeah. Because I always like to go extra. And everybody was like, "Oh, that's Zach's fault. That's Zach's fault." No, it wasn't Zach's fault. Zach's 6'7". You know what I mean? Yeah. Zach can only do what Zach does, and I just gave him the extra. Yeah. I should have just trusted that he was strong enough to get me over, and you know, whatever. That's on me. Yeah. But I gut this out for 11 hours. Then they tell me what they want me to do at the show. So I call Corey Bush. I'm just like, Corey, here's the situation. I don't know if I should do it because I don't really know these guys. I don't know how it's going to affect my situation like anywhere else.
Were you working him in that match?
Or no.
Was this
I don't know anybody. I don't know anybody at this. Like, I'm just out there.
So he's just the one you reached out to be like, hey, this is happening.
Yeah, right this is happening. And Tate's in the car. Yeah. I guess they're coming back from a comedy show. So he's like, well, I mean, I could tell you what to do, but I'll let Tate tell you what to do. And
not a bad guy.
And then this is the first time I ever had a conversation with Tate. You know what I mean? Like, I've seen him at WDWA shows, like, and been wrestling his son every now and then. You know? Like, so I'm having a conversation with Tate about what we should do about the situation. And he gave me some really strong advice, man. And you know what I mean? And Tate's one of them guys that always reached out during my dark spell there for the last year. Like, he was constantly once a month hitting me up. And I'd always feel bad because there was times where I was just not physically capable of messaging him back. So I'd just be, but me and Tate always had this like weird bond because I always trusted his insight. You know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
And he gave me some sound advice, and I rode with it, man. And one of the things he did say, he was like, well, if you do something like that and it backfires, think about this. And this is before I even started wrestling at Elite.
Yeah.
He's like, how would I ever be able to book you for Elite if you're getting some bad publicity based off somebody else doing, you know, putting you in a situation that you don't feel comfortable in, but you do it anyway, and it turns out bad. You know what I mean? And this is where I've always wanted to be. So I followed his advice, and it all worked out.
He's good. I mean, he's a good guy to get that kind of advice from, because he's not like screw it or whatever. Like he's a little more knee jerk than I am with stuff like that, but he also has seen so much, and he's got a good head on his shoulders. He's dealt with a lot of things on the fly that just come out of the blue, and understands how to navigate that kind of stuff. And like that situation. I mean, I've known him for my entire life, and I mean, he's a good bullshitter, but two, he's hard to bullshit. So it's a nice contrast because he understands both sides of that fence, and he can see it coming from a mile away.
But the bond, back to the original, like the bond that me and Corey built, that I felt comfortable enough, because I don't talk to anybody really, you know what I mean, about anything. I just assume that my idea is going to be good enough, or maybe I'll talk to Shane.
Now, for the listeners, that came across as one of the more arrogant things I've ever heard you say out loud. You don't talk out loud very much. When you do, it's because I'm right.
Right. But there's times I'll run things by Shane or whoever, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
People that I feel comfortable with. But I felt comfortable enough with Corey that I could just, call him up on his phone.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that too much to anybody else because...
Yeah, you hang up. No, you hang up. We'll hang up at the same time.
And then all of a sudden Tate's on the phone, and I'm just like, oh no, that dude's...
Both of you hang up, dick.
Right. So...
Yeah, no, that's cool. So just based on that conversation, that being the first time you really talked to Tate, what was the time period between that and actually talking to us about coming in? Just out of curiosity. It's so weird.
It was still like another year and a half.
Yeah, because I only asked because it's so weird because I have so many people now, because it's the old guy that's been around for like almost 30 years now, but the timeline of what I was dealing with wrestling while other people were dealing with wrestling, and us crossing along the way, and like their perspective compared to mine is so much different for guys. So it's always interesting because I'm like, well, I was dealing with this, and this, and then because I'm typically a little further down the road than what a lot of the guys are. So then when they're telling me, and then they're in like a younger stage of it, while I'm in like an older stage or like a booker stage, and they're in a worker stage, but it always throws me for a loop whenever I'm like, Jason Raditz came and said he wanted to train with us and had long hair, and we kind of sort of blew him off the way he described the story. I'm like, I don't remember ever having that interaction.
This was 2021 because it was right after COVID. We had the 3 matches. So it's around 2021, the end of 2021. I didn't get here until 2023. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it was about a year and a half before from me and Tate having that conversation till I get in here.
Yeah. So when you got back into, like, was WDWA, there's a whole lot of initials in this conversation. So when you got back into that, was that the first one after the whole legal FBI stuff?
Yeah,
like
that was the first place. And I always feel loyalty, like to a fault with anybody that I'm working with.
Yeah.
So I didn't want to be that guy because there was always a lot of undertones about, oh, these guys are going back to Elite, or they're going to MCW, or you know how that works. And I wanted to be that sting to WDWA. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I wanted to be that guy that just stayed there, knowing I wanted to be here though. And it was just like I always felt bad because they gave me the shot. You know what I mean? Like coming out of.
Well, and I only asked because like when you came back and you had said, like Shane said, hey, come here, or, come to a match or whatever. How far did you come out with the similar Israel Sharif Phakur character? Yeah. How far did you back that out first coming back?
Not a bit.
Because obviously you're not going to roll out there with like the bomb vest and things like that.
I didn't do the bomb vest.
No. But was there apprehensions? Like
mentally, yes.
I'm going to have this blow up my face again.
Because I'm thinking they're watching me.
Yeah.
You know, the whole time I'm thinking, I have that repeating in my head. The CIA's next time. The CIA. If you keep
as far as that stuff goes, I don't know how far you can even talk about that. But have you ever had any other interaction or contact after that?
No.
Like,
I'm sure I'm on a watch list though somewhere.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you have the FBI come down on you like that,
Yeah.
they're going to keep you on some kind of tab for the rest of your life probably. You know what I mean? That's that conspiracy talking to you though.
Yeah, I was just curious because like I didn't know a lot of that, and there's very little that I ever, because I'm not one to say, hey, tell me all your personal shit too. Like I'm not that guy, but at the same time, I was just curious how that, because if you get right back into it, and it's like it was basically like you came after me for this.
It was my
like,
middle finger to them.
Screw you! I'm going to go right back to it.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was for me. Like once I told him, I was like, yeah, I'll do it, and I was mentally in my head like, this is gonna be bad. Like I know it. If they're watching me, they're gonna see this.
Yeah.
And then at some point, it's just like I don't even care. You know what I mean? If you're gonna try to take me down because I play a character that you don't agree with in a wrestling company, then you got problems.
Yeah, start watching some movies. And how many of them
are
you going to get? I mean, and now you look at the audiences that sit around this ring every week, and they're wearing everything, the garb and everything, and you know they're chanting it, and you know, I mean, I haven't seen anybody swinging the flags yet, but you know they're fully invested, and it's, you know, even when you were in that heel role, they were invested, and that, I mean, that's, to me, I mean, like, you can talk about, you know, you're not over the heel because people are cheering, you're not over the baby face because they're not cheering, you know, but when people are that invested because of the performances and because of the aura that you bring and the status that you bring, and that's, I think, what it was, is just the respect for like the work. That's a hard thing to criticize.
It's what made me a babyface in WDWA.
Yeah,
they saw me going out there every other week for 2 years, just taking ass whoopings. You know what I mean? Playing the bad guy, keep coming back, just doing it hard. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Hard and safe places, right?
Yeah.
But well, at some point you get a respect for that.
Yeah,
and then they start cheering you. You know, and that's the worst, playing a baby face. I hate playing the face. Like, I've always been a bad guy. Like, in my mind, like, I like watching bad guys on movies. I like reading about bad guys. And then playing a bad guy is like the ultimate for me. But then when it came to being a good guy, that's a whole different psychology.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I'm used to getting beat up as a bad guy, like, because I'm so generous in the ring.
Yeah.
But when it's time to actually be a babyface, get beat up in the ring, and then have to do comebacks and all that stuff, and try to get the crowd behind you without saying yeah, and, you know, come on, and all that stuff. Like, you got to be creative.
What's the dialogue and not being repetitive and not being lame?
The hardest part was they were so used to seeing me take these ass whoopings and giving it back. Now I'm not giving it back the way I was. You know what I mean? So they're used to seeing this guy that they were getting behind being brutal. It's a whole different philosophy. Now I can't be as brutal. You know what I mean? I hate every aspect about being a babyface.
Yeah, so, and it's tough and it's easy. I don't know how to describe it, but I'm like you. I love being a heel more. There's so much more depth you can go with the psychology of the character and stuff like that. And I mean, you can bring out so much more emotion without having the same old, like you said, like, come on, you know, cheer for me. I mean, it's, you know, there's only so many high fives and so many, you know, stuff. There's only so many ways you can do it. But a heel, I mean, you know, even like, to go back to like the elite roster, it's like, you look right now at the heels, everybody is so different. It's such a different villain all over the place. And there's still people can appreciate what they bring, but they dislike them as a person, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But, you know, to me, that's like, I feel like everybody should end up being a heel at some point if they're, you know, a babyface, just because you're learning so much more as a heel. I feel like in the broad scale of things, you become a much better worker as a heel.
That's the thing about Reggie too. I was so happy because I was paying attention to wrestling when I was gone.
Yeah.
When I saw him turn heel, I was like, oh, thank God, dude.
Yeah.
Because if there was anybody that needed to understand how to be a great good guy, you have to be a heel, and that was Reggie. Like, I knew once Reggie became a heel, I know his next phase as a babyface is gonna be epic.
Yeah.
I used to tell him all the time, even when he was 20 years old, coming down to WDW, I tell him all the time, I'm gonna tell my grandkids about you someday, dude. Like, I always tell him that because I believe he's got that talent.
Yeah. He's a passionate kid and everything, and it's such a schooling as a heel. I mean, everything from controlling the pace of the match. I mean, obviously, unless there's a huge gap in experience with the babyface, but, you know, generally, it's like, I have so many people, including Reggie, who has come up to me at different times and be like, "How do I be a ring general?" It's like, Well, for one, I can't explain it to you, and two, you need to be a heel.
Right.
Because I'm a firm believer that you can almost not become a ring general if you're a babyface. You
Right.
can't learn to do it. You can control a match, you can call the spots to the guys, but like you can't be a true ring general without being a heel. Because I think that you're controlling everything from the fans to the pace to the just everything about it. Um, I don't know. I mean I think it's challenging, but I think it's so much more fun as that.
The thing about being a face that was irritating also is knowing what I would do if I was a heel against me. You know, nobody stepped on my foot. You know what I mean? Except for Clay Jacobs. Like he was the only one that ever just step on my foot and just be like, "Take that." You know what I mean? I wrestle barefoot, dude. Like why wouldn't?
Was that on purpose? To step in your foot?
No,
or was
it's
it just
psychology.
like an act?
You know, it's psychology.
Oh, okay.
So it's like why wouldn't people do that?
Yeah.
And
it's there.
Yeah. So when I'm playing a face, I'm sitting there thinking about the things that I would do as a heel, and I'm not seeing that done by heels that I'm working against. And I'm just like, man, why don't you just do this? You know what I mean? Certain things that just irritate me that I knew I couldn't do because I'm being a babyface.
Yeah. It goes back to that, like I was saying about how hard it is to like watch somebody else try to do what you ask them to do, and it's like I know it's my vision, but like I need you to do it the way I want.
I know. Yeah.
It's fun conversations. So, I mean, from the creative standpoint of like I said, songwriting and writing these books and stuff like that. To me, like I had mentioned about like my hobby is doing the songs thing. The commentary in wrestling helped me so much when it came to the verbal skills to come up with that, to have that wide range of like lyrics in a song, or did you find that that's been helpful in the whole writing process with whether it's the songs or whether it's the being writing the stories and authoring is a word maybe.
Yeah, well, it's different tones. You got to have different tones. Like with commentary, there's different tones, and there's a psychology in commentary too. But yeah, with writing, I have to find a balance of not sounding too smart, and then a balance of sounding like realistic. And then when I look at like how you text message somebody, you know what I mean? There's that type of style that you got to put in. Like you got to be able to embrace the way different people talk different ways.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, and then to put that all in the one narrative perspective.
I hope it connects to everybody that might read it. That's a tough spot.
Yeah. So I mean, putting together a lot of story beats, structures, and poses, and all that, like it's all just gathered information basically from all the people that I've met in my lifetime and all the situations I've been put in. Like you meet so many different cast of characters throughout music, wrestling, you know what I mean? Prison. So so it's putting all those languages together into one narrative form. And
so and again, we can get into it as much as you want, but when you were talking about that chunk of that time when you were in prison, like what as an overall, what did you take away from that? Like, was this like a look over your shoulder thing all the time? Was it was it?
No, just because of the way I carry myself, just as a human being in general. My uncle used to teach me all the time. He was like, always be good to people because you never know who you're going to need later on in life.
Yeah.
So you can't treat people like crap all the time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You never know if that one guy that's getting bullied, if you stick up for him in school, may end up owning $1 million corporation someday. And he may look to you for, to repay a favor or something like that. And I've always kept that in my mind. Like I try to always treat people good. Sometimes that's harder than, easier said than done. But it was more of just a laid back, treat everybody cool, the same thing.
Get through the days.
Yeah, it's a lot of repetition. Yeah. You know what I mean? If you can stand doing the same thing over and over and over and over again, every day, you'll be fine. But other than that, just mind your business. Yeah. Like everything else in life and how I am, and just naturally when it comes to America, just leave me alone and I'm good and I'll leave you alone and you go about your business. I don't care what you do.
Survey the land, understand what's going on around you.
That's it.
Yeah. Oh, well, we got a huge show here tonight. Elite Pro Wrestling Alliance, the Elite Pro GM.
Yes, sir. And it's not in Short Gap tonight. It's in Kaiser.
It is in Kaiser.
That jet lag.
What a fantastic way that you segued, though. It was like one misstep on the promo, and then, it goes right to that again. I was like, can you go out and make the correction just so the people know, in case they get confused? You go out and you basically executed it as part of the promo in a completely different manner than I would have thought that worked so well that it didn't make anything look like a mistake.
Do you know what an 18-hour trip from Iran is like?
I bet you there's some security checkpoints.
They're definitely watching me.
That's amazing. So now, I mean, officially, you're retired from in-ring competition.
Yes, sir.
It's my understanding, you mentioned to me without wanting to do a ton of detail, but like you suffered an ankle injury as well, and that's something that might be a
So
little bit
ironic, right?
yeah. You go through your whole career barefoot, no ankle injuries, and then all of a sudden,
Snapping it in half in work boots.
yeah,
Unbelievable. And
oh Jesus,
and then it heals wrong because workman's comp, they
Yeah.
can't even be comparable. So I ended up having a cast on my ankle for 2 months, and then it started growing wrong because it was an emergency cast. It wasn't even just like a regular cast or anything, not even a brace. And so I've been dealing with that. I still get pain in my ankle all the time.
yeah,
And that's why you don't ever see me in here just running around, because I don't even know if my ankle's going to hold up or not. But
yeah.
one day I'll test it.
So did it just heal back that way, or did they do any kind of, did they reset it?
It just healed back that way.
Yeah.
They did nothing to reset it because it was already starting to heal by the time I ended up seeing a specialist for it.
Yeah.
Then they would have had to re-break it and put bone and put pins in it.
And I've never heard a good story in any of those scenarios where when you start with, we have to re-break it.
Yeah.
It's like, I think I'll limp. That's fine.
Yeah, I'm fine with limping.
It seems like a horrible thing, but from, as you stepped out of the in-ring stuff, and that unfortunately the ankle injury happened in the same period where you're dealing with all
it was
this other
1
shit.
month after I retired.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean you're already in the midst of
being broke. I was already in the gutter at this point. And
yeah.
In my mind, that just was icing on the cake, basically.
Yeah. And I mean, as it piles up, it's just so hard to get out. But now you're sitting across the table from me, and you're back into the mix of things. To me, that's a huge perseverance, especially because you were at a point where like you said, you didn't want to have any contact with anybody. Everybody wanted to, but like they couldn't get to you. And then you came out of the fire, and now you're sitting here, right back in the thing, offering what you said. All this knowledge that you have, offering to these young guys, and it's like. What I like too is that when you have the idea, you don't have to announce to the whole room you have an idea, but you'll pull a guy aside and talk to him and explain it. Like you'll take that time. It's not something where you got to make the announcement. You're not seeking the credit for it, but you're also willing to. Here I am. Like I've got it. You want it. Just listen.
I wish I would have had that for somebody like that for me. You know what I mean? Like you can't have these raw guys all the time.
Yeah.
You see them all the time. You know what I mean? I'm not hey, that match was great. You know what I mean? I'll tell you if something was wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like the other day, I was telling one of the guys in the back, there was a move from the top rope, and I saw how he was laying in the ring. And I was like, what? Don't cross your arms. I'm just telling myself, don't cross your arms. He's got his arms crossed. I'm just like, nah, dude, you're gonna break your arms.
Yeah.
You're gonna break your arms. You're gonna break your wrists. So when he came to the back, I was like, dude, listen, this is how you take a bump when someone's coming off the top rope onto you. You know what I mean? This is how you take it.
Yeah.
Cup your arms to your sides. Cup it like this. You'll get it. Don't cross your arms.
Everybody's going to get hurt if you keep doing that.
Yeah, and you're not going to like the way that feels. There's little things that people don't pick up on. You know what I mean? Because maybe they weren't told or they didn't retain the information they need to be told again.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm there for, man. I'm not gonna rah-rah you as far as like, yeah, that was the greatest match I ever saw in my life. No, dude, I'll tell you if something was wrong, dude, because you need to hear it.
Yeah, I feel like I'm a broken record a lot of times when we do meetings or anything like that. And it's like, if it's good, it's supposed to be. If it's bad, we need to talk about it. Like that, I feel like I should have a T-shirt that says that half the time because like you said, like we'll be sitting at some of these things and people are wanting to have rounds of applause for each other because of this, that, and the other. It's like, yeah, you were supposed to not screw that up.
Right.
The fact that it was good is what we're shooting for. Like, I don't know that you need compliments for doing what you're supposed to.
If you want to see somebody grow, tell them what they did wrong.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I made that joke, and I kind of wanted somebody to do it. I want somebody to post a video package of all their mistakes because like there's some of these times now with all these kids with the technology, it's like I'm still with the venue and I get in the car to leave, and people have video like highlight reels from that night already up on their social media. And I'm like, I want to. There was 7 things that were horrible in that match, and now you're looking like a superstar because you got all your highlights. Like, I want to see the mixed tape of all the shitty stuff you did in that match, and then we can sit there and break that down on a big projector screen or something.
Well, if they're not even watching the bad spots, they're not going to learn from it. You know
no, I mean? And they've not even not watched it, but they've now edited it out so the world only sees this because they're not posting the whole match. But it's something. Shane Malice's of the world. Only post their highlights.
Mr. Flippy likes to do all kinds of flips and stuff like that.
So now at this point, I'd like to know from a pro wrestling standpoint. I mean, is that something where creatively you'd like to eventually find yourself possibly moving into that position where you're like back into a creative role and in the thought process and the booking type thing, or is
No, I'm fine being a general manager.
kinda,
I'd like to be a manager,
yeah,
but I'd like to build something. Like, I'm not saying I can't wrestle. I'm sure I could.
yeah.
There's no doubt in my mind I could
One
get
thing about pro wrestling is you can work around anything.
You can work around anything, but it have to mean something, because the way I went out was it meant a lot to me, the way I went out, because it was somebody that I came up in the business with. You know what I mean? Someone that believed in me to give me a shot to, hey, why don't you come and do this? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I was obviously not even in the mind for him to come do this, you know what I mean? Because I'm just getting out of jail. But he took a shot on me, put his name out there for me. So I lose one championship to him, and then I lose the other championship to his son, who I watched come up, you know what I mean, since he was like 4, maybe younger than that.
Yeah.
And that is just special. And it would have to take a lot for me to come out of it.
Yeah.
For a match.
You can't write that stuff.
No.
I mean, somehow it sort of was, but on the same time, there were so many organic pieces of that puzzle coming together.
Like, even when I knew I had to leave here, I knew that I was going to have to drop the title. Like, I had no plans on ever just being like, hey, can you take this down to these guys? Like, I knew there was going to be a time where I was going to have to come down here and do the honors. You know what I mean?
Well,
I had to.
Yeah.
It was the last thing that I had to do before I could ever start trying to figure out how to get my life back together.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So, but the way to go out like that, perfect for me.
And that was such a stud way of doing it, because if you had to do what you had to do at that moment. You need to step away. You need to get your head clear. You need to get through all the shit that was going on, but to still be willing to step back and do good business, and for those guys and everything about that part of it. It was like, it
wasn't just for them. It was for the company. You know what I mean? It was for everybody. It was like, I knew I had to do it. I knew I had to mentally just grind down one more time, get it up. You know what I mean?
Well,
and
the
honestly, respect for you guys, and the respect for the guys that that watch me tell them exactly how to be a professional.
Yeah.
Like, I couldn't just back out of that now. You know what I mean?
That's the thing too, is like, and I appreciate that, but I think you had to do it for you too, because I think that's one of those things that would eat away. You hear guys talk about things that missed opportunities, or that they walked away from when they shouldn't have at that moment, when they could have done something, and it hangs on. And that's one of those things that with everything else that was going on that was horrible, it was shitty, you not checking that box would have been one more thing that right now is lingering, when you can kind of get past some of this other shit. You know what I mean?
I'll be honest, I never watched the match.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's too hard for me, because I know I mentally wasn't there with it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it just could have been a lot better. In my mind, that's how I'm, because I've never seen it, but I know it could have been a lot better if I'd have mentally been there.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, for the people in attendance that paid to see it, it was pretty damn good. So you can take my word for it.
Yeah, I hope so.
But it definitely checked that box. That I say check that box, and I don't use that line, but I've said it about 10 times on this thing. But I don't know.
I feel like I should have kicked out on Gavin, though. I tell Shane that I should have kicked out on him just to see what he would have done.
It'd have been funny. It'd have been great to see the look on the ref's face.
Learning process.
That's always the fun. Look at the ref and go, "What'd you do?"
But I couldn't do that to him. Like, there's the time that I stapled the curtain shut on Shane. That was pretty funny.
Yeah. Oh man, that's awesome. Well, we're getting close to bell time. I guess we should try to wind down. Is there anything else that you wanted to touch on? I mean, I know that we went pretty deep down some rabbit holes, but we're at an unlimited amount of time here.
Oh, I'm sure there'll always be another show, man.
Yeah, we can always go with another episode. I'm all about part 2.
We talk about conspiracy theories next time.
It doesn't have to have anything to do with wrestling. We can just straight up talk about whatever you want to, because that's
you don't want to go down. You don't want to go down that rabbit hole, man.
Hey, these days conspiracy theories tend to be true.
Yeah,
so
I mean, a lot of the things I think of are true. So.
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk about any of that kind of stuff with you. So we'll put a pin in that one and make that one for sure.
We'll definitely do it.
Because even if people don't listen, you don't have to turn it off. That's the big thing about today. If you don't like what you're hearing, turn the channel.
That's it.
But all right, my friend. I promised myself I wouldn't say my friend the entire time, and I just did. But we're going to wind it down. We're about the 2 hour mark. That was pretty solid.
Are we?
Yeah. So
Time flies, man.
but big show tonight. We're going to head over to the venue here in just a bit. Tear some of this stuff down. We'll be kicking things off here.
Put on my executive
Thank you,
gear.
my brother.
Thank you.
Appreciate you.